Hello and welcome to Connections Forum. It's a live online show hosted by Heidi and Margherita, which is me. And in the past 2 years, we have had offered 100 episodes with amazing guests to share their piece of truth and their experience with us and our audience. Our commitment is for the next year is offering a space for people who want to be interviewed on their subject and use the video for their own marketing purposes. We offer coaching for overcoming camera shyness, for finding your authentic voice, and we train you in all aspects of live appearance. If you are interested in our services, please go to our website, bit.ly YT interviews, or contact us directly on bit.ly contact connections. It's a tongue twister there. Yes, and Heidi holds the link there. We're going to show it later on too.
Here it is, bit.ly contact connections. Okay.
Yes. So today's title is Higher Brain Living, Neuroscience Revolutionary Breakthrough with Craig Polsfuss. And we will talk about the groundbreaking findings in the world of neuroscience, which will change the world by enabling us to live a higher life. Before that, just some word about myself. I am Margherita, an intuitive healer and author with a background in hypnotherapy and science. And so I have assisted clients for the last 18 years to overcome issues and reclaim their energy. And so these women are present on online programs and in private mentorships. Okay, so I think we're going to go over to you, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you, Margherita. I'm Heidi Hörnlein, and I'm a trained classical singer and voice therapist, and I'm also a Gestalt coach, counselor, better, and a transformational coach. And I work with people to have them discover their authentic voice, and part of this work is also to do online shows like this one. And I have another show with my husband, Mark Davenport, the Wisdom Factory, and we're working together to present integral theory into practice, and especially contents which we are excited about at the moment and which we will bring to the Integral European Conference in Hungary in 2 weeks. And that means how to live in the second half of your life. That means, like we are, all three of us, I guess. So now finally to our guest, it's Craig Polsfuss, and he is a holistic psychologist, and he is the director of professional outreach and education for higher brain living. Craig is a close collaborator with Dr. Michael Cotton, who discovered a mind-body touch point code that opens and completes mind-brain circuitry for optimum health and functioning. So, hello, Craig.
Hello, girls. Great to be with you.
Yeah, and would you like to add a little bit to who you are and what you are doing, just as a brief information before we really dive into the subject?
Sure. As you said, I'm a holistic psychologist, and I also use the term an integral psychologist, which is even a step beyond holistic, significant step. And I have an online coaching and counseling practice, and I'm passionate about, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of 2 breakthroughs in the field of mental health and personal development and personal potential. One is a psycho-spiritual, non-religious breakthrough that we're not really going to get into because that could be a whole series of interviews. And the other is this neuroscience, integral neuroscience breakthrough called Higher Brain Living. And I was passionate about the other approach, and I still am, and was not looking to add anything. And then all of a sudden I learned about it, and I just was compelled. I could not not pay attention. And I have a feeling a number of your listeners and viewers, once they get a glimpse of what this really is, it's like, and the potential of it, they won't be able to ignore it. They'll have to learn more and see what it has for them in their lives and for humanity, because I think it was Margherita who said something about changing the world, and it's absolutely on that level where you can absolutely be a part of transforming individual lives, but there's a lot of understanding about how we're going about that and doing that in a way that literally shifts global consciousness. So it's a very wonderful opportunity to be here and get to know you guys better and share with you and your audience, and hopefully get to know some of your audience.
Yeah, we had already some comments. I bring up Vivek, and he says he watched all the videos. You graciously have put in the comment stream the videos which give a little bit of an impression. And Vivek says, I watched all the videos that Dr. Craig Polsfuss posted. One point is they all show a demo of the process, but not much is actually demonstrated about the results, and we will go into this. I agree about the need to enable our higher brains to become more active, but the demonstrations do not show the actual effect it has had on the individuals. For example, did they become more intelligent? Did they become more efficient? Improved health? That is not shown. They are all shown breathing in a different pattern. But a skeptic like I would ask, so what? I think this is a very good starting point. First of all, to ask you what was your experience. You have experienced it before, because otherwise you wouldn't have done it. So you might be able to firsthand to answer to the questions of Vivek.
Sure, that's a very important question. Although I'm wondering if, to the listeners, they might want to understand what it is first. I mean, I'm willing to jump into this, but because it might be putting the cart before the horse. I can say at least this, that I don't know a person out of thousands that has had a negative experience or outcome. They've all been positive or mostly profound life changes in at least one, if not more, of what we call the 4 dimensions of manifest life. And I'll just briefly overview those and then give you some examples. And by the way, we have a website, higherbrainliving.com. You can go there, see and hear people talking about their results. We're gathering more and more of that. We have a tab in there called The Science, which goes into it. And there is currently underway an outcome study at the University of Iowa here in the U.S. that is gathering all the positive outcomes and any outcomes, and just be doing it in a more formal way, and of course that'll be published. So
this is great. So you have already addressed the question, and now we can go into what is it, higher brain living?
Okay, so I can jump to that, and then we can back up, and I can tell you about those 4 dimensions and the kind of results we get in each of those. But okay, higher brain living is a very unique, in some ways it has very traditional elements, like looking at your life and understanding, oh, there are these 4 fundamental dimensions, and let me just mention them. These 4 things or dimensions I'm going to describe, if you just reflect on it, they obviously all 4 exist or coexist right here in the moment. And there are 4 ways to look at our life or our experience of life. And they're really one occasion or one energy or intelligence, you could say, yet they come in 4 different forms. So the first one is what we call the inner dimension, which is the mental, emotional, spiritual, the inner experience each of us is having. And, we're always having it whether we're aware of it or not, and being aware of it is useful information. Okay, simultaneously, we have the body. The physical body is here co-occurring with the inner experience, so that's part of the whole picture. The third dimension is relationships. And in the biggest vision of this integral perspective, that means relationships with anything and everything, But in our program, we tend to focus that on social relationships because that's very important in human lives. And the fourth dimension is what we call the environment. So our body, our inner experience, and our relationships are all occurring within an environment. And in that dimension, that's where we bring in lifestyle and work, career, finances, and all those aspects of an individual's life. So it's not uncommon in certain practices that are attempting to do well, I mean, well-intentioned, we look and we assess all those areas, what needs to be changed, the strengths and the weaknesses, and then we come up with a plan for each area, and basically we fail because it's overwhelming. It's just overwhelming. But what makes this go far beyond that is, what if we could come at that with an energized, an awakened higher brain, a higher consciousness that can see the most essential points to interact in each of those area dimensions. We call them hot spots. If you have hot spots that have been holding you back, you can start to clear up the main ones, and as you get successful at clearing those up, you get more and more confident and effective and feel better and better. So if you go about that from the part of your brain that's just personal and analytical, you'll get overwhelmed. You'll have to use willpower and belief and positive thinking and all those kind of things. And we don't, I mean, there's a place for those, but if that's the emphasis, you know what happens. We get bogged down, we don't make change, or we make change and can't sustain it. So one of the big discoveries of higher brain living, Dr. Michael Cotton, is that there's a physiological reason why we have trouble making change and sustaining it. And it's what we call the lower brain, or the survival brain. Our brain developed in layers. And the first one on the scene was the survival brain, and its main consciousness and thinking and purpose was physical survival, which makes sense. We show up in a world of predators, we better stay alive. So it's constantly looking for threats and problems in order to protect us. So it's not the bad guy. We have to thank it for being so successful, because here we are. However, there's more to life than that. We can't let that run the show, especially as we layered over that. Nature does not abandon a good idea, so it kept that, but then it used that as a basis to layer over more and more abilities.
Is it the fact that most of us are living in this modality of, you call it the lower brain, of fear, preoccupation, and finding everywhere something to watch out, and if there is nothing real, then we invent it?
That's right. That's right. And part of why that is it's such a primal process in us. And two very important points about it. Number one, rough estimate, 95% of that is unconscious. It's just under there going, and every now and then we're aware of it, or if we get too aware of it, we feel really agitated, and really, we have anxiety disorders or stress disorders or whatever. The other part is 100% of the sensory data that comes into our system is first filtered by the lower brain to make sure we're safe. So and on the one hand, it's a vital, important, alert, alive kind of a consciousness. On the other hand, you can see how it's intimately connected to the feeling of anxiety and stress, and that if we're perceiving the way thought works is what you look for, you'll find, because you don't know it, but your mind will make it up. So if you think the world is full of predators, consciously or not, then the traffic becomes the predator, or the knee ache becomes the predator, or the economy, or the spouse, or the boss, or the economic situation, or what it's. So we live in this world of imagined predators that makes our lower brain or survival brain be on overdrive, and therefore hijack the energy, oxygen, blood flow metabolism from the other parts of the brain, especially what we call the higher brain, which is the prefrontal cortex. That's the part that was made for change. That's the part that was made to be able to see and envision possibilities and have a purpose and fulfill that purpose and have high-end spiritual consciousness and experiences. The lower brain's logic is sameness equals safety. So when we wake up in the morning and we see from the lower brain perspective, we're alive physically, it goes, great, success. Do what you've done and don't change anything. So here's a part of our own brain in great service to us, inadvertently sabotaging us. So in one sense, this is good news in that, oh, it's not your fault. You literally have a part of your brain doing this. On the other hand, it's like, well, now that you know that, what are you going to do about it?
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, because I have so many clients, they don't want to change. And when we lead them through some kind of process, they see that, oh yeah, I could do that. But unless the emotional reason for it is solved, is that the hot spot you're calling, right?
Yes.
Then they can understand it with the higher brain.
Yes, it's like
very interesting.
The energy from the true self or the soul or the heart, however you want to say that, that's made there to live in higher parts of the brain and experience of life and be fulfilled. That energy gets hijacked and turned into fears and stresses and blocks and hotspots, and we get lulled into, you know, even though I'm unhappy, I'm familiar with this. So a part of us kind of goes, well, I don't know. If we really listen deep down in us, we absolutely want to make change, and we know it's the essence of life. Because the truth is, every moment of life, this moment right now, and I hope everybody who hears this takes a moment and sees this and feels this, because it's so simple, but it's so powerful. This moment is brand new. This moment has never existed in the history of the universe, let alone the human species. If that's not fresh, if that's not full of possibilities, oh my God, but if we're not awake to that and we just think, oh yeah, another day, another Monday, another day at work, that's innocently the reflection of that kind of thinking, which is associated with certain parts of the brain, but not the whole enlightened brain, correct?
Yeah.
So what higher brain living did, Dr. Cotton spent 30 years studying modern science and ancient wisdom and ancient energy systems and Chinese medicine, all yoga, nadi points, all that stuff, Kundalini, Chi, and figured out, and this is just genius.
I would like to interrupt you a moment. We have a lot of people here. There's Teresa Schöndorf. She seems to know you because she says, hi, Craig. Great to see you here today.
Oh, yes.
And then there is Sally Sue. Amber, she has also a question. I will come later onto it. And then there is Lauren. Good morning. We have afternoon. You have morning. Good morning. All the integral spheres are very interesting ways to approach our life work. Yeah, and this I wanted also to say I appreciate very because you are addressing all 4 quadrants of integral theory, and this is really, 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 really great and promises to really catch every aspect of the whole work. So now I want to go to a moment to Sally's question. How is this different from breathwork, rebirthing, yogic breathing, and other techniques for increasing oxygen flow to the brain?
From what I know about those things, they're all either intuitive and or scientifically based methods to do what we're doing in higher brain living. In essence, awaken more of the brain and perhaps treat pathology. Now, with higher brain living, we do not position this as a healing modality. We position it as an awakening and life potential personal development modality, which just incidentally happens to have profound healing effects in all 4 of those dimensions. What we've found is what I was about to describe is the actual technique Dr. Cotton figured out, working with very precise touch touch methods and points and vectors and sequences on the energy system in the body, it releases the constrained, the energy and life force in the mind-body system and allows it to go through the lower brain, releasing that stress and grip to the higher brain and awakening it. And what I think makes higher brain living unique, from what we can tell, is it produces the most powerful surge of that kind to the higher brain. So things like meditation and breath work and some of those, if you put EEGs on people, you'll see the higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, gets more active and lights up. But what we're seeing is this at a very profound level, and we're not here to replace meditation or breath work. What we say is higher brain living is the hub, and when you turn on your higher brain and it begins to myelinate, so it's more and more stays on, so to speak, you can then bring that to your meditation, bring that to your breath work, bring that to your yoga and fitness programs, and you'll get quantum results from it. You'll get better results because the system you're on, if it has a productive effect or intent and outcome, higher brain living will only allow more of your potential to utilize that. Now, even some, we found some where the body, we think, and we think we have examples of this, and we want to do more research, that it metabolizes food better. And there's automatically an intuitive sense of going to healthier foods than just sticking with junk food. So, and I want to say one more thing, Heidi, about the importance of seeing all four dimensions, because if you don't see and address and become aware of all four at the same time, one or more can sabotage you. I'll give you two quick examples. Studies have shown that the #1 indicator of lower back pain in women, which is the body dimension, and you can go get body work, and that's good, that'll help, but the #1 indicator is relationship stress, which is the relationship dimension. So if a woman doesn't know that and isn't doing something about that, it's just going to be a Band-Aid effect, and they're not going to get the full change and healing they want. Similarly with men, the #1 indicator of lower back pain, body dimension with men, is work or financial stress, which is the environment dimension. So same thing, it's like, oh, I need to see these are all here simultaneously and have that integral perspective or holistic perspective. Now, did I answer the question there? Well, a second back about, what was it about? Oh, breath work. Okay.
Yeah, I think what I have... Oh, there's an echo. Margherita, jump in.
Yeah, so I have an echo too. Maybe you can mute yourself, Craig. Okay, so we had the questions there, and we have what we say.
Let me jump in, Margherita, because Craig was asking if he has answered the questions about what is the difference of breathwork and the other modalities. And what I have understood, that higher brain living, his way of doing this is a sort of the umbrella, which is preparing the ground where all the other techniques can flourish even more. Is it that, Craig?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And I wanted to bring up a moment what Teresa says. As a yoga teacher and a singer, I can say it is different in the way energy is activated. Also, it is different from any type of meditation practice I do as well. So, Teresa, what is the difference? Would you like to write just one sentence or two what you feel that is the difference? It would be very helpful, I think. You seem to have done it. We don't. I haven't. Margherita hasn't. So we are sort of brand new and with open ears and try to understand how to do it and how to dive into it. Okay, I give over to you, Margherita.
Yeah, so how did you get into this modality, if I can call it that? You have positioned it very well as a self-development technique. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how did you get into it?
Okay, so I'm going along. I'm a psychologist and actually a clinical social worker in the U.S. And I'm involved with this other psychospiritual breakthrough. And what makes that a breakthrough is we're able to identify the 3 core principles behind all human experience. And as a person's understanding of those expands, they mentally, emotionally, physically, their system just begins to get on track or be balanced more and more, because we have innate health and intelligence in us that's designed to be in balance. And the only reason we're off is because we're using our mind in a way innocently that's getting us off balance and interfering with that. So when you see the understanding of the light, so to speak, it's just like, oh, you can't unsee what you've seen. And like a little example, maybe I've been a person who complains all the time about traffic, and it makes me stressed all the time. And then I get that insight that, you know what? Maybe you're driving along, the traffic is horrible, but you're not stressed. And you all of a sudden realize, oh my God, it's not the traffic, it's my mind. I'm not a victim of the traffic. I'm the one creating my experience. Oh my gosh. So a little chunk, if not a huge chunk, of the way we experience life after that is going to shift, because we start to realize, oh my gosh, my reality is an outside-in expression, an inside-out expression, not an outside-in. So I'm working with these understandings, loving it, getting wonderful results. It's spreading all over the world. It's funny that it's not in the mainstream yet. And I'm not looking for anything new to add to my toolkit, because this was fine. But I'm also, because of that, very open, learning I'm open to what does life have to offer that can help me in my life and help humanity and help maybe me in my work and my career. And along the radar comes a seminar on higher brain living by Dr. Michael Cotton. I didn't know at the time it was the very first meeting he put on outside of the area of the country that knew him. He purposely went to a market that did not know him to see if he could now bring this out and professionals would listen and want to get certified. So I got invited, and I thought, this looks different. It doesn't just look like more explanation. He's saying there's an actual methodology I've created to energize the higher brain, and I knew right away what the implications of that was. And I saw little videos, like I put, and I thought, okay. So I went to it, and everything he was saying totally resonated. But then when I saw those demos, like the early participant was saying, well, I see those demos and I see that, but what about the outcomes? If we have the time, I'd like to explain what people will see in those demos. But let me take a moment right now. So Dr. Cotton did this series of gentle touches on a person who's like lying on a massage table, and they're fully dressed, and they're face down, then they're sitting up, then they're face up, then they're face down, and he did a short 10-minute demo maybe. And you see this person start to have this huge breathing, and then their body starts to move like kind of like doing the worm, if some people know that. It's like the body it starts moving and organically. And he's saying these people are not purposely doing this. Yeah, these people, they just feel like doing it, and we've told them, don't make yourself do this, but if you feel like it, let yourself do it. And he explained why. Because number one, apparently the most efficient way the body can dump stress out of it is through that sine wave, S-I-N-E, through a sine wave. And you know, when you want to stretch in the morning or whatever, you kind of arch your back and you kind of stretch, and it's like, and you take a deep breath, and it's like, so this is back to the breathwork question too. Until this method came about, we didn't know there'd be such a profound response in the human body. And the first one is, internally, you start to feel great. You start to feel the stress going out of you, and like you're waking up inside yourself. But physiologically, the first sign is this big, deep breath starts coming into you that you're not purposely taking. And it feels amazing, and it's like you're being breathed. And what that is the higher brain waking up and going, this is good, I want more energy. It's creating a feedback loop and drawing in more and more energy. Well, if you just imagine, what if you're sitting here taking huge breaths, your body is kind of moving in a rocking motion, isn't it? So then you start to notice, either right away in the sessions or within a few sessions, the great majority of clients start to feel like, oh yeah, I want to not just breathe, but let my whole body get into it. And so the hands and the arms start to get into it, and you'll see this in the demos that I put on there that are recorded. And that's another powerful, we call it a salutogenic breath. Salute means well-being. Genetic means genesis of, or beginning of. So it's the source of well-being in the breath, and then a salutogenic wave. And over 22 sessions, 45-minute sessions, usually a week apart, dramatic stress is released, dramatic awakening, and then that's applied to those 4 dimensions at one point to go, okay, here are my hot spots, and now I have the energy and the motivation, not the willpower. I have the inspiration and the tools to go start cleaning these hot spots up, and I can do this for the rest of my life, because you also learn how to activate what happens on the table on your own at a certain point in the program. Then another stage of the program is that it's not just enough to have an awakened higher brain and be making these areas of your life better and better and healthier, but to do so from your authentic self on purpose. So it's very specifically to connect and integrate the higher brain with the intelligence in the heart. And there are additional touch points that help facilitate this, and we call that awakening into and living in your fearlessly authentic self. So it's a very comprehensive program that points in that direction, and people organically go in that direction. And again, it may replace, you may choose to go, you know what, I've had many clients do this. I don't need my depression meds or my anxiety meds anymore.
Can I interject there for a moment? Because when you talked about the movement, and I connected with, I do meditations most every morning, and then I just go doing this way, and then curving the back, and it's like I do it naturally. So yes. Now I know why. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, yes, it's latent in our nature, and it's like we use a metaphor like this, like we don't energize the body, like we're not energy workers, and we don't make people move or breathe that way. That's already in a person, and we just, here's the metaphor, like a bird that has wings but it hasn't flown yet, but it's in their being to fly. It's like we go up with the bird's permission and just wiggle the wings, and they start to feel that what's already in them, like, oh, I want to wiggle my wings. Now, before that might, in one way it feels totally right, in another way it might feel strange. I've never had wings to wiggle before. This is weird to be on this table moving this way. But within a session or two, it's like, oh my God, I love this. This is so organic and feels so right, and I have wings in my higher brain.
I have a testimonial where Teresa is really making publicity for your method. She says, in my experience, there is an activation of another part of my brain, allowing me to move beyond rational thought to a place guided by intuition and free from overanalysis, and allowing the natural, healthy wisdom of my body to take over. Isn't that great?
Great testimonial there.
Great way to put it.
So you have talked now a little bit about the benefits and how it came to you. So you are excited to bring it into the world, and so that's also a reason why you are here with us on the interview. What is it? How do you bring it into the world? I mean, what do you offer?
Well, I guess there's 2 levels of that. On the level of me speaking in these kind of venues, is to let people know this exists, and if you're interested, if you're drawn to it, like when I first saw it, like I was starting to describe, I didn't go, oh, I got to do this. Or I didn't even go, I've got to experience this, because I already had my own, and I haven't gone into my own personal story, but my own personal awakening and along those lines. But what immediately hit me was, I've got to look into this more. And as I looked into it, it wasn't long before I went, oh my gosh, I have to get trained in this. And you know, as I told you, I'm published in professional peer-reviewed journals on the other breakthrough, and I'm still one of the leaders and voices there. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so, but I knew to follow that. So I got trained. Early on, I got asked by Dr. Cotton to be a part of the leadership team with him at the top level. There's about 6 of us at the top level of the company. I'm very honored to be in that position. And in that role of Director of Outreach, Professional Outreach and Education, I want to get the message out and especially say, this is, and I haven't described how this is, but it might be clear to many of the listeners. This is directly connected to shifting consciousness on the whole planet. And there's a desperate need for that to happen sooner than later. So not just individually have a much more enlightened and healthy and beautiful life, but we need this shift to happen. And if you are attracted to this, just look into it more, and you can do that by going to the main website or contacting me directly, because my role is to educate people about certification and then enroll them, expedite enrollment. And you don't have to be a professional, where we would like helping professionals who are already operating in that way in health and wellness or whatever areas. But any person who's drawn to this, who is a caring, capable person at this point, can get trained and certified. Understandably, we've been focused mostly in the U.S., but as I've gone along, and I'm known throughout the world in the other breakthrough, it's popped up elsewhere. So I've enrolled people in the UK and in Sweden and South Africa, and we're not purposely putting it out there worldwide, but we're not going to, it's just happening. Like, your audience is probably not mainly in the US, right? And so, or maybe it is, I don't know. And we just want people to, where the door's open, we'll let people know, and we'll let people come forward that feel right about it. So that's my main intent here, is to say this exists. If you feel attracted to it and might want to be a part of a team that's at the very leading edge of this revolution.
So, Greg, this seems to be a little bit early to think about being part of a team, because I want to go back what Vivek said at the beginning. It seems like only some movement and some breath, and I think when I saw it together with Mark, I think this is one of those things which you can only believe when you have experienced it. And so I'm wondering, is there a possibility to experience that? Do we need to go to America to, I mean, I'm in Italy, it's a little bit expensive. How is the possibility to experience it in their own body, so we can say yes, 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 instead of, you know, already committing to a school or something?
I totally understand that. Let me respond this way. Experiencing it is the final, it'll turn the key. You'll go, oh, I get it. And you'll either get it in the first session, or the basic program is 22 sessions. Sometime in that, and usually for people it's the first session or 2 or 3, that there's kind of like this, oh, I get this, and they get they dive in and they get really inspired by it, and it's not like they respond to a sales hype. It's like they experience something in them that just shows them the potential of this. However, I should say this, like it's only been like about 4 years now that people have been trained to be certified, and there's like only 300 of us trained, which is a good start. But there are thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of, massage therapists energy workers, I mean, throughout the world. So it's like a little drop of nothing at this point. But I can tell you, in the first couple of years, over 50% of the people that came and got trained had never had a session because there was no one there to give them a session. They heard about it like this or in person, and they felt enough to go, you know what, I'm going to go. And this, of course, then they proceeded. So
there is a possibility. Teresa, she says she is a facilitator and who is living near Austin. There is a possibility to experience it with her. Book a session with Teresa.
Yes, and I'm in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area of Minnesota. I'm available, and if you go on the national website, you can begin to see where facilitators are. Now, I know you're centered in Rome, and so the options there are, yes, travel to the U.S. or travel to Sweden or the UK and have an experience. Once a year, Dr. Michael Cotton does a week-long immersion session, usually in Mexico, which is fantastic. Another one would be to come to, if there was enough interest, bring someone like me who's trained at the mastery level to you, and I can facilitate a retreat experience with higher brain living so people can experience it and then decide, you know, some of them will decide, hey, I want to get certified and be the first person in my country to do this or my city. And you'll want more than just you, because who do you get your sessions from, right? You want to go with at least somebody else with you so you can give each other sessions. Let's see. I do have some very enthusiastic people in South Africa and in the UK who Dr. Cotton has agreed that if we can get a group of at least 100 people overseas that are committed to getting certified, he'll actually send a team of trainers overseas to train and certify them. So there's all kinds of levels here. It's kind of the plus and minus of being on the leading edge. You know, it's exciting, but it's like, where do you get it?
I have to butt in here and say that, you know, like having that realization that I do it already, it's the experience. And so I can verify, yes, that's what it is. So if people who can do that, you know, follow that movement in that the videos that you showed there on the page, I think it is, then they can experience for themselves right away.
Well, you will get a little taste of it, because it's not that, see, I said, we don't tell them move that way and you'll have an experience. We open up the higher brain and that movement comes out of them. So imagine what you just experienced, Margherita, maybe 100 times more. That I'm not kidding. It's stunning what we're capable of and what is in us.
Yeah. And then you always also said about the scientific research you are doing, because I'm sure there are many skeptics about that, you know. Are you really sure that that person doesn't really move just because it is for the video and things like that? Can you talk a little bit more about the scientific research on that? Because we need the upper right quadrant, the science, too, and many people are skeptics in these things, and when we want to change the world, we really need to have everybody in the boat. There are these green people who do it, you know, because they believe in it. But the orange people, which we have always in spiral dynamics, we have these, they need scientific facts. And I would like you to speak on that a little bit.
Sure. There was something you said there at the beginning of that I wanted to address that, well, maybe it'll come out in my response here. It's healthy to be skeptical. That's the lower brain. Again, the lower brain is not bad. It's the lower brain wanting to make sure this is safe. But if we let skepticism run the show and stop us when it shouldn't. That's where the problem comes. So good, be skeptical. In fact, we kind of really like the skeptical people who come and try it, because they often become our strongest advocates. Because then, like my son was one of those. He was like, well, I don't know, this looks interesting, but we'll see, but I'm not going to move and I'm not going to do anything. And then when it started happening, it was like, oh my God, it just, made a very profound change in his life. So right now, the science, it's the main, if there's someone out there that's really interested, they could contact me through the information that I'll say or that you'll post in here. And I put together a couple years ago a downloadable video e-course for psychologists, mental health work, and addictions professionals in Minnesota to get licensure credits. I'm willing to send that out for free, and that goes into much more of the science. So if people want to go there. But right now, I'll just give an overview. Number one, there's huge supporting science out there from heart math, from studies on the piezoelectric nature of the body, which verifies there are these meridians and there is this energy, and if you can release it in certain ways, it has this amazing effect to quantum physics, to Andrew Newberg. I mean, there's all kinds of supporting science backing up what we're saying, and we're going to be developing more. One of the most powerful parts, and you can go to our website in the science section and see some of this, we have done years and years now of EEGs. And what we're showing, a couple of the main things I'm going to say here. More and more we're getting readouts, brain scan readouts that correlate with classical enlightenment. It makes sense. You energize the higher centers of the brain, you're going to be opening up more and more of that ability to have the high-end ability of the brain. So we're getting, my son had one, well, more than one, but classical enlightenment experience verified by EEGs. The other thing is the number one and original doctor who measured the EEGs for us, Dr. Penny Montgomery. She's an author of a book and a well-known for 40 years a brain researcher. When she started to see the printouts on this, she just got very adamant about, you've got to get this into the mental health and addictions fields. And she said, especially addictions, because she said, what I'm seeing here is exactly what people who struggle with addictions need. And the main thing about that was, she said, there's very high alpha, which if you know about it, that's the very deep relaxation waves. That's alpha. But she said, right with it is very high beta, which is very alert and awake. So you get alert and awake while being very relaxed. And that's one way to describe how virtually every client who gets off the table right from the first session, if you were to say, do you feel really relaxed and really alert at the same time? And they'd go, yeah, more than I've ever experienced. Yeah. So, we will have an outcome study, as I mentioned earlier, at the University of Iowa. We're very open to people who are interested in testing this and verifying it, working with us. Here's an example. I'll get questions when I present, like, well, how does this work with MS? And I'll say, we've had clients who have had it. It's not presented as a treatment, but they've gotten improvement, but we don't have a formal study on it. Well, along comes Mike Trainer in the UK, and he gets turned on to this. He hears about it, comes and gets trained, and it turns out many, many of his clients are people with MS. And now he's collecting the case studies saying, I'm getting amazing results with all my clients with MS. So, and there's a woman here in the state next to me who uses it a lot with children who have ADHD and are on the autism spectrum. She was getting such great results, she got asked to present at her professional conference a couple years ago. So we're kind of at that early stage where there's these positive outcomes that just basically say, you can't deny these, let's validate these with more formal research.
This sounds so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't ignore it once I saw what it was.
If you were around, oh, there's the echo. If you were around the corner, I immediately came.
Well, I'm happy to, if somebody in the audience owns a company, I mean, part of my work actually is in leadership development and teamwork and all that, employee performance, with or without higher brain living. Now, you bring higher brain living. It's in your, let's bring him and his son over. Let's have a retreat. Let's have some meetings, some sit downs about, is this the real deal? And if it is, what do we want to do? Because I really believe there's going to come a tipping point where once it comes into the public consciousness enough, there's so many people like you that say, if this was here, I'd do it right away. I sat in a group of 20 people in a city where I presented that went to a round table afterwards and just had their questions. And I said, how many people here, if money weren't an issue, would get certified? And all 20 hands went up. You know, so there are people that are going, I've been looking for something like this. Thank God this is it or could be it, and then they'll look into it. You know, so I'm open to, as I said, I'm passionate, open to whatever doors can open that can work.
And what about online? Do you offer something online?
Well, I have my one-to-one coaching and counseling, but I can also do seminars or presentations like this where I can actually have video and audio involvement. They can do it through chat like you're doing here, with, you know, printing out comments and questions, or they can literally be on the screen, camera on or off, and verbally be asking questions and interacting and seeing each other. Right now I have a platform that can get up to 100 on, but I could upgrade if we had some amazing big group too.
Well, thank you so much for this presentation, and we are really blown away what you've said here. And my takeaway here is that we have got some new information to sort our issues in what we call the hot spots, especially in the, you know, emotional feelings and anxiety and stress and stuff area. And so this is, I think, a breakthrough for you if you're going to go and share this. I mean, I've been an intuitive healer for 18 years, so I know that it would work because I really had that experience when I looked at the videos. So you have my voice to support you.
Yeah, see, it's people like you that, as soon as they saw it, they said, you know, you've never had a session, and they knew there's something to this. And some of those just went and got trained because they knew. You know, they didn't need to go feel it. But, yeah, great, thank you.
And this is exactly what Teresa says. Many people feel the activation just watching this session.
Yes.
This is great. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, Greg, I'm very grateful that we met and that you came up to speak about this. I think we have to collaborate, bring out the cutting-edge things, techniques. Maybe it's not only a technique, it's more than that, what you are doing. But there are many so wonderful things out in the world, and when we can succeed to get them together, this would be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And when we could support each other in doing that, and I'm very happy to support you in this, and we will invite you also in the Wisdom Factory in summer, and we will see what we can do. And I'm really interested, in case you come to Italy, to have a session with you. This year, it's not in my budget to go to America. We are going to the Hungarian conference, Integral Conference, and we will present a workshop on integral aging. So some way it would be wonderful to integrate that what you are doing in the aging process, because, you know, when we succeed to activate our brain, our higher brain, we don't have to age as we normally do when we think now we are old, and it all shuts down and goes into survival mode.
That's right. We can stay in a thriving mode no matter how.
Absolutely.
And you know, neuroscience has proved that even in your 80s, on your last day of life, your brain can still create a new neuron. Can still create new brain cells.
When
So,
we stimulate it, when we don't give up on it, when we don't stay like, now I'm old.
right.
So this is very enriching and very, 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 very valuable. And thank you for us and for our audience and the people who in future will see the video. And thank you again. And you can post the resources you have offered to us in the page, event page, and we will put it in our website too, where
Can I
we
give
post
my
the
email?
replays. Yeah, also.
Craig, C-R-A-I-G, Craig P, at higherbrainliving.com.
Perfect. So who is interested, please write to him and get all the information you want. So thank you very much, and see you another time.
Feels great. We're all connected.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.